Stern.
Welcome back. Navy divers will again scour the bottom of the ocean off Peggy's Cove today. They will be hunting for Swiss Air 111's cockpit voice recorder. The aircraft's flight data recorder, the other so-called black box, has already been found. CBC Morning's science correspondent Bob McDonald joins us now to talk about how these two instruments reveal their information. Good morning.
Good morning, Nancy.
You know, I think we've heard so much about these two sources of data, but what exactly are they, starting with the flight data recorder?
Well, these instruments are the main source of information about what happened on the airplane while it was in the air. The flight data recorder, the one that they already have, records everything about the plane itself, all of the controls, all of its motions, and I have some video that shows exactly how this stuff is interpreted. At the National Research Council's facility in Ottawa, the black box, the flight data recorder, is brought into a laboratory. Now, it's essentially a big computer that stores 270 parameters of the airplane. That's everything.
Was it ever black?
No,
I'm just wondering.
it's black because it's electronic. But they plug it into their computer, and the computer is able to reconstruct the entire flight and what happened to the airplane. Now, this is not Flight 111. This is another plane that went down. But you can see that they can reconstruct the flight in 3 dimensions and see what happened to the plane on the way down. And unfortunately, in the case of Flight 111, they don't have it below 10,000 feet. But what they will have is the pilot's perspective, all the instrumentation, and everything from the moment the plane left the ground up to the point where the emergency happened, and then what happened after that, how they came down and dumped fuel, and everything that mechanically happened to the plane. So that's what they're doing right now.
And the reason they don't have any of the data below 10,000 feet is because of this alleged electrical failure that obviously affected the black box as well.
Seems to be the place, and also the last recording that we had from the cockpit to the ground said that they were going off autopilot and going manually, and because the data recorder is a computer, it needs electricity, so there was some kind of power failure that cut it off.
Now, still efforts continue to retrieve the voice recorder. Physically, what does this look like?
Well, it'll look very similar. It's another orange black box. And what it is just a recorder, a tape recorder, that uses a microphone that's in the cockpit. And all it does is record all of the sounds that happen within the cockpit during the flight. So that means the conversations between the pilot and the first officer, stuff that wasn't transmitted to the ground, because there's a lot of chatter that goes on. How did they make decisions? Did an argument break out between them? Because there have been cases where crashes have been caused by a disagreement. Also, if there's any sounds, if, for example, the fire was caused by an explosion, they'll hear that. If there was anything that fell off the plane, any mechanical problem, that'll show up as well. So the flight voice recorder is very important because that actually puts you in the cockpit, and hopefully that'll be all the way down to tell us what happened and what they went through during those final moments.
Now, a lot of people have been trying to draw parallels between the kind of investigation underway here and the investigation under the TWA disaster 2 years ago. One of the really notable differences is just the level of sophistication. When we see those 3D images that come from the flight data recorder, there really has been a tremendous development just on the quality of retrieving the information and displaying
That's true. Plus, in this case, the aircraft is in bigger pieces and it's closer to shore, so it's easier to get to. And this will be the third thing that they'll be doing. The Navy ship that's from the U.S. that's there now will try to bring up as many pieces of the plane as they possibly can. And in a hangar, probably at Shearwater, they will actually, on the floor, draw the outline of an MD-11 in full scale, and every piece that's brought up from the ocean floor will be placed on this floor in its proper position, and they'll try to put the plane back together as much as they can. And what this does is tell them, for example, if there was an explosion, they'll be able to see the pieces that were blown outwards. If it was an explosion, if there was a fire, they'll be able to see where it started. So there's still a lot of work to be done.
So many authorities and people just trying to get some sense of meaning out of this terrible disaster. But just in terms of lessons learned from what we're seeing with this investigation, what comes to mind for you?
Well, the human tragedy aside, out of every crash does come a lesson, and perhaps in this case it'll be obviously what caused the problem, fix that from the manufacturer, but perhaps also get these flight recorders to keep going on their own so that they don't cut off and we'll have the final data. But there's going to be a good lesson, and hopefully this won't happen again.
All right, Bob, thank you.
Okay, Nancy.
Well, to business now, and I guess we turn our attention to Volvo. Not so good news.
Yeah, and again, it's in the Halifax area, 200 jobs at stake here, because you've got a situation where Volvo was taking parts from Sweden and bringing them and assembling them in Halifax. Unfortunately, though, it wasn't a very efficient operation. 6,500 units being pumped out on a yearly basis, or at least last year. Capacity only just over 8,000. Compare that to, say, Chrysler down in Windsor with 300,000 models getting cranked out every year, and you can see how Volvo is looking at it and saying, how can we make money on this? It was all part of a free trade agreement where if you made one here, you could sell one here and be able to ship into the United States and have all those advantages. So 200 jobs at risk, and obviously weighing on the business environment in Halifax as well.
Weighing pretty heavily, to be sure. Still ahead on the new CBC Morning. Reforming the Reform Party. Reform MPs begin a 2-day caucus retreat this morning in Banff. We'll go to Alberta this hour to find out just what they're planning. Do stay with us. Much more coming up.
The 16th Commonwealth Games continue tomorrow on CBC.
If you're already a FirstRate customer, we'd like you to take this eye examination. Cover your right eye. See the 10 cents? That's all it costs to phone long distance in Canada evenings and weekends. Now cover your left eye. See the $20? That's the most you'll pay with our new monthly maximum. But as a FirstRate customer, you already have it, which means you have 20/20 foresight. Don't have FirstRate? Give us a call. Bell, connecting you to the people, places, and things that matter.
That white-brown stripe means we're in for a harsh winter.
No, mild winter.
Wait, it's the black stripes, which means blizzards.
While opinions on the weather have differed, folks have always agreed Lennox is the name to trust for heating and cooling.
Let's ask Dave.
And you can still count on Lennox today, even if you can't count on the forecast.
Got a question, boys?
Never mind.
Lennox, one less thing to worry about.
It's the beauty of the game. The 1-yard drive. The long bomb. It's how it's played. Desire, grit, determination. It's pushing the limits and prevailing against the odds. And it's the only place to be for the road to the Grey Cup. The CFL on CBC. The New Ice Age, a year in the life of the NHL, September 29th on CBC.
You are watching CBC television.
Welcome back. The Toronto International Film Festival opens tonight. It's considered one of the top 4 festivals in the world, right up there with Cannes, Venice, and Berlin. Our entertainment correspondent, John Northcott, will be covering it for us over the next couple of days, and he joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, Toronto Film Festival really has a great cachet, great reputation. Why is it so successful?
Well, one thing is Toronto audiences. Toronto audiences, Canadians generally, maybe it's our long winters, make us crazy about movies. We see a lot of movies, a lot of screens. A few years ago, Michael Eisner from Disney said that when a movie opens in North America, what they care about is how it did in Los Angeles, New York, and Toronto.
Really?
Toronto audiences have a very discerning nature. The other thing is why the world finds Canada interesting is it's safe and it's fun. And you can go out at night.
And we're just so darn polite.
And we're so darn polite, exactly. And now that our bars are open a little later, they can go out and do the business of film.
Now, this film festival showcases tremendous talent, but it also is a marketplace. Tell me a bit about the business dimension or the kind of wheeling and dealing.
Yeah, well, that's when you say it's one of the top 4 festivals in the world, how do you measure a festival? It's a bit like measuring a pumpkin at a county fair. There's a variety of ways of looking at it. And 250,000 people show up to the festival, so big audience attendance, that's a good thing. But also people come to sell their films here. A lot of films have just been finished even last week or the week before. They come here to make distribution deals, and the audiences are where they test those movies. The distributors are in the audience, and then they can go to a party later and talk about making a distribution deal.
Okay, quickly, I think we have to press on here. Tell me about opening night and what's being showcased.
Opening night, Red Violin, Rhombus Media, Canadian company that is specialized in doing music films. This is their first feature. If we have time, let's have a look at the Red Violin.
Let's see.
Heard of the Red Violin?
Sir,
Sure. The Frederick Pope Busotti, sure, I have stories.
About copies.
There's one in London, only one I know of, supposed to be a copy commissioned by Pope.
You know who has it?
Some private collection.
You think I could buy it without tipping them off?
See Samuel Jackson there. That's a draw. But why was that chosen as the lead-off film to be showcased?
Well, they like to showcase Canadian films the opening night, but it's, as they say in the film word, audacious, which of course it means I can't believe they're doing that. But no, it's in 5 separate languages, 3 continents, $13 million, which is very expensive by Canadian film standards, and it's a good film. Don't forget, all these films have already been viewed by the festival people, and we're getting the pick of the crop.
Very quickly, one of the unique features of this film festival, a lot of first-time directors being premiered at the festival, right?
Yes, and that's always a good thing for a festival. They get this is very lucky for them to be able to do this, although, you know, the established ones get in there too.
All right, well, thank you for this, and you're going to be with us throughout the duration, so we look forward to catching up to you a little later. Get all the scuttlebutt.
Yep.
Thanks, John. Well, film festivals, I confess, I've not been. I know lots of fanatics who do. They, you know, big cups of coffee, wall-to-wall screenings and the like, but...
wall-to-wall lineups, though, I think is the problem that I've always had in the past. But you know what? I think this year I might go.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, you know, it's part of the cultural thing and developing some sense of film, and as opposed to, you know, always going to the big hits like Titanic.
All right, well, normally I guess we're filling up our dance card, Pat and I, when we're not sleeping and we're not working, we'll be checking out some of the films.
Well, let us know how they are. Maybe they'll come to Halifax sometime, eventually. We have some incredible video this morning. Colleen, you were using it earlier from the coast of Texas.
Yeah, where Tropical Storm Francis is busy churning off. About 300 kilometers from the Mexico-U.S. border. Yesterday, they had to make rescue attempts at the 54 platforms that are out